Welcome. Today, I'm going to share the three biggest mistakes I have made as a small business owner. I started my entrepreneurship journey back in 2011, and I've made costly, and I mean costly mistakes since then. So, thank you guys for tuning in on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and are we on Instagram? Yes. Let's go. And I think even over there on Instagram for the first time ever, if I figured this out correctly. So I do have a hot shave beard appointment coming up here in a few minutes, or it's like 30 minutes away, and a tea time at the golf course this afternoon. So we're going to dive right into the three biggest mistakes I've made as a small business owner and what I'm doing to make sure that these mistakes never repeat themselves. So I'm going to dive right into it. And the first and foremost biggest mistake I've made as a small business owner is not understanding how taxes work and getting behind on taxes. Because here in the United States of America, where I live in the wonderful state of Florida. We have no state income tax in Florida, thank God. I actually love this state for so many reasons, and that's one of them, and that's one of the reasons why I moved here. But federally, there's taxes to what we call in the United States Uncle Sam, of Internal Revenue Service. And so before I started my first business in 2011, I was used to having jobs where I was an employee. I worked at a place called Best Burger, and um, I worked at a golf course, and I had these various jobs, but they would pay my taxes for me. So when I would receive my paycheck, I got to keep all of that money. Well, fast forward to when I became a small business owner in 2011, if a customer paid me $50 to mow their grass, I received that $50. And what I didn't understand is I had to take a portion of that $50 and send it to the IRS. And I had to calculate how much I owed them and all of that stuff. And so it took me years to figure out the correct mathematics on that. And then to have the self discipline to set that money aside into a tax savings account so that I can have the money available when January 15th and April 15th and June 15th and September 15th, those are the due dates for the estimated quarterly tax payments here in the United States, to make sure that I had the money saved. So when the tax bill was due, I knew exactly how much I owed to the penny, and I have the money saved to send that in to Uncle Sam. So some of you've heard the story before, but we have a lot of new listeners, which I'm thankful for. I'll share the story again. My first year in business, in the lawn care business in 2011, all my friends were getting tax returns. And I was like, "Ooh, I need a tax return. This sounds great." Because I was broke at the time. And I took all my receipts. They were kind of in a shoebox type thing, took it into the accountant. And a couple weeks later, I get a call from the accountant saying, "Hey, your taxes are ready. Come on by and let's have a meeting and everything." So I go over there and they're like, "Hey, you only owe $5,500." And I said, "Oh," I said, "all my friends are getting $5,000 back from the government. What do you mean I owe them 5,500?" And they're like, "Yeah, that's your tax bill. Would you like to pay it by check or, the ACH, or what, how do you want to pay your tax bill?" And my heart sunk. I mean, sunk, because I didn't have no $5,500. And I think it was like $500 fee to pay the accountant. I barely had that. So I was like, "Oh my gosh." I was like, "I have the money to pay you your $500 fee, but," I was like, "I don't have the 5,500 to send to the tax bill." It's like, "Okay, no big deal. We'll put you on a payment plan and you can pay him back." So we did that, and I got charged some interest and some penalties from the IRS. But the problem is I didn't learn my lesson in 2011, and that bad habit kept repeating itself, because eventually my tax bills got way bigger than the $5,000 a year. It got astronomical. My business grew, the tax liability grew, which is a blessing when you're profitable. One of the signs that you're running a profitable business is ultimately you owe taxes. So the problem, and I'm gonna give you the solution. I'm a solution oriented human being. The problem is if we get behind on our taxes, which I did, we get dinged with penalties and hefty interest where they charge us. And it created a lot of stress and anxiety. So, one thing that I like about Jesus is it says that he gives us peace that transcends understanding. Like we can try to understand the peace that God can give us, but we can't even understand it because it's so much better than we can explain. So financially, I would say it's impossible to have peace or nearly impossible to have peace when you owe the IRS money and you don't have the money to pay them. Because I've been there and it ain't peaceful. Okay. It's stressful. It's anxiety. It's overwhelming. It's, oh man, I owe all this money. I owe 'em all this money because now mentally and emotionally, you go out to serve a customer and what you're thinking is, I got to get this job so that I can get the money so that I can pay the IRS. And there's nothing fun about that. Like, okay, so you land the job and it's a big job, it's a nice job, but you know all this money outside of the expenses for this job is going to have to go to the IRS. It's just no way to live. So here's a solution. If you're a small business owner, when the money comes into our business, to set aside a a ratio of that, a proportion of that into a savings account that's dedicated for tax savings. And so I've heard experts say you should set aside 10% of your revenues, 20% of your revenues, 30% of your revenues. I've heard all kind of different advice. And so this is for educational purposes, entertainment only purposes. I am not a certified financial planner or tax preparer or anything like that. But the principle is as money comes into our business, the very first thing I think that we should be doing is taking a portion of that and setting it aside for the future tax bill. And I would recommend talking to a tax strategist, a tax preparer, somebody who can help us understand what that best ratio is for us. For me, I know what mine is, but I don't want to tell you because you might not live in the state of Florida like me. You might live in a different country. You might have, there's all kind of variables. But I would say from every reputable person I've heard, in between 10% to 30% of the revenue that comes in your business, somewhere in that range, depending on the size of your business and all the variables, should be a safety zone. And we'll just use 30% as an example. So if a customer pays you $1,000, 30% of that is $300. So the $1,000 goes into the business. $300 of that immediately gets transferred into a savings account, preferably a high yield savings account. And then when January 15th arrives and April 15th and then June 15th and September 15th, you already have the money set aside for your taxes in that tax savings account and you just pay the tax bill. I have awesome bookkeepers, Megan and Joey Coberly, an awesome certified financial planner, two of them actually, but one of them I'll shout out, Sheila Chaplin from South Carolina. Of course, my brother's the other one. Shout outs to Robbie, a little brother who's a certified financial planner, but they help me understand how much money I need to be setting aside for taxes. So I never, ever, ever, ever have to go back to that stress, the anxiety, the fear, the everything opposite of peace. I referenced the peace that Jesus gives my heart earlier. It's very challenging to have that peace in your heart when you owe the IRS money, you don't have the money to pay them. So the solution is to set the money aside as the money comes in, which takes discipline because you might not be able to go live high on the hog and live it up. What do they call it, Mr. Producer? Balling out? Is that you, Mr. What did they call it in your day and age? Yeah, high on the hog. There you go. We're from different generations, Mr. Producer and I. But the point is, it takes discipline to not spend that money, but to set it aside so we have the money to pay our taxes. All right. Point number 2. And please let me know in the comments where you guys are watching from. We are live on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and maybe even Instagram if that got working. I tried that for the first time ever today. But let me know if the audio sounds good and where you're watching from. I know I asked you two things there, but I'm just curious. I didn't do a sound check or anything because I got a hot shave appointment here for my beard. And then I got tea time at the golf course. So I got to get rocking and rolling here. It's a busy day in Florida. We got the haircut in the golf tee time. So I feel like a Floridian. Um, but I'm curious if you can hear the audio loud and clear on whatever platform you're tuning in on. Okay, biggest mistake I've made in business so far is not understanding taxes and not saving enough to pay my tax bills on time. And I believe I got that resolved now by, as money comes into my business, immediately setting it aside so that I can um, have the money to pay those bills. Number two, biggest mistake I've made in business. Woo-wee. You ready for this one? It's connecting with the wrong people. That could be the wrong employees, the wrong subcontractors, and the wrong customers or clients, whatever you want to call them. So I have stories for days of hiring the wrong employee. And at the end of the day, it's my fault because I'm the one who hired them. So I had, discernment is about as sharp as a butter knife in some of these decisions to hire some of these folks. In other cases, it was subcontractors. And in other cases, it was actually customers where I get the customer. I even get a job, and I'm like, oh man, this is, over $10,000 job. This is gonna be awesome. And I'm seeing the money. I'm seeing the, wow, $18,000 job, $15,000 job, $14,000 job, and I'm getting all excited about receiving the the payment from serving the customer. But business isn't just about dollars and cents. It's also about there's relationships involved when you're serving a customer. So even if on my end, I'm bringing a spirit of excellence, I'm going to serve my customer at the highest level. I am going to give them my best. I have, I guess the spirit of excellence is the best way to describe it. I take passion in my work. And if you hire me, I'm going to try my best to serve you at the highest level. Now, relationships are a two-way street. So it's not just that cut and dry because I might bring my best, but a client, a customer, they might, for whatever reason, just find it interesting to make my life difficult. Now you might think, Paul, what kind of people are out there that would be like that? They're out there. We're like, for whatever reason, and psychologically, there's different layers to why a human would be so difficult to be around or to work with, but they just take it like it's almost like people see you as so peaceful and so joyful and so successful and so prosperous and so blessed, and it irritates them. So the only solution they know to deal with it is to try to tear you down, to try to ruin your day, to try to make life difficult for you. It's like no matter what you do, you can't please them. So, because my podcast has grown, gotten millions of views, I have to go in the RSS feed thing and look, but we're coming up on 4 million downloads on the podcast, which is wild. So I ain't going to say names. I ain't going to share examples of stories in this case, but I've had customers that were like that. And even though, and I got paid at the end of the day and everything financially worked out, along the way, they were able to steal some of my joy and peace and happiness because of just how challenging they were. So the lesson I learned the hard way is we need to be very discerning. And sorry, if you're watching on the internet, I forgot to shut my blind, and it's so sunny in Florida that the sun is just beaming through my window onto my face. It should go away in like an hour. Just bear with the strange. Actually, I should shut the blind really quick. Let me see if I can do this. Nope. There we go. That should help. No, it didn't even help. Let me try it one more time. That's good. All right, there we go. So I don't know if that's going to work. It's so sunny in Florida. It's still coming through the blind. But the point is, we need to have discernment when we hire an employee, when we hire a subcontractor, and when we hire essentially a customer. We agree to do business with the customer, that it's the right fit. Now, thankfully, the vast majority of my customers, over 98%, have just been awesome to work with. I mean, truly, it's a win-win. I serve them, they're happy, they pay me on time, I'm happy, win-win. That's what I want. And then when it comes to hiring subcontractors and employees, winners are attracted to winners. So if you want to attract winners in your organization, you need to become the winner first. Like, you need to become the winner, because I'm a winner, right? I can sense when somebody isn't. And other winners, they can sense winners. So if you want to attract the best, become the best yourself. I'll leave it right there. If you're just tuning in, I'm talking about the three biggest mistakes I've made as a small business owner. I started my entrepreneurship journey back in 2011. I'm obsessed with small business. I love business. I love profit and loss statements. I like customers, serving them well and getting paid. I love all of it. So, the number one mistake I made as a small business owner is not understanding how taxes work and not saving enough money for taxes. The solution is, as money comes into our business, to set the money aside for future tax bills. Number two mistake I've made as a small business owner is connecting with the wrong people, wrong customers, wrong subcontractors, and wrong employees. The solution is to look in the mirror, the person you see in the mirror, helping that person become a winner, and help that person sharpen your edge, if you will. If you have a knife, you don't want a butter knife. You want one that's razor sharp in the realm of discernment, so you can sense, is this person good, or are they going to be difficult to work with down the road? Is this employee a rock star, an all-star, world class with the spirit of excellence? Or are they going to just try to mail it in? And we want to really attract and recruit the cream of the crop, the best of the best, winners. If we become a winner, we're going to attract winners. Number three, biggest mistake I've made as a small business owner. And if you're watching, I don't understand. I shut all my blinds. There's like a little crack in my window, and that's exactly where the sun is shining right on my face. I'm talking, it's like in the window. I guess I can move over here, see if that helps. Man, it's like right on me. It's crazy. It like only does this for a few minutes of the day. But anyway, I have a haircut appointment here in a few minutes, and then I'm going to a golf course. So I gotta wrap this up for today's podcast. Let's see here. All right. The third point is not knowing my numbers. So in business, we need to understand our numbers. We need to understand what's coming in, where it's coming in from, how much is coming in, and then how much is going out, where it's going to, and making sure that there's a gap there called profit. So how do we get more profit? We need to increase our revenue. Revenue needs to go up, and expenses need to go down, or they need to be, money can't be leaking. You can't have a hole in your bucket, so to speak. And so obviously, to run a business, we need expenses, right? To run my podcast, I have to pay Mr. Producer to edit the show, and I have to pay the RSS feed to produce it. I had to pay for this microphone. I had to pay for this camera. I had to pay for all this, computer, all this stuff. So all of those are necessary expenses. I need each and every one of those elements. So I need to make sure my pricing is high enough, and the money that's coming in is more to cover all the expenses, so that there is profit. So at the end of the day, as small business owners, I think it starts with having clean financial records. We need to have a specific business account set up for our business, and only channel money into that business account that's revenue generated from our business. So all the money that's coming into our business needs to go into that business account. So we know exactly to the penny how much revenue our company is creating. Then from there, we only use that business account to pay our business expenses. A huge mistake that I used to make, and I'm trying to never make it again, is having personal expenses come out of my business account. You don't want to muddy those waters. If you have a business expense, that's fine to use the business debit card, the business checking card, whatever you got to pay the business expense, but we don't want to be intermingling our personal expenses with the business account. So I do, I work for my company. I do get paid from my company. And then when I get that payment, it goes into my personal account, which I actually use a whole nother bank for. And then from that account, I can pay my groceries and my gym membership and just all the personal expenses out of my gym membership. I don't even have a gym membership, but it was an example because maybe I should go get a gym membership. I do, yeah, I do use the groceries though. And I was thinking about joining a gym. It's January, the time I'm recording this. I'm thinking, maybe I'll go get a gym membership. But anyway, the point is to know your numbers, to know what's coming into your business, what's going out of your business, what that profit is, and then it becomes a calculation of how can I earn more revenue, bring in more money into the business, and how can I squeeze the orange juice out of the orange of expenses? How can I be as frugal as possible with the expenses so that the profit gets as wide as possible? That's where business gets fun, is when we really start building the profit. So the solution I've learned is I hired a bookkeeper to help me keep all of my transactions very organized. I hired a certified financial planner to help me with my investments and making sure I'm investing my profits in things that are growing and multiplying and compound interest and all of that. And I am obsessing over these numbers. I look every day at the numbers in my business. What has come in, what has been leaving the business and expenses, and just understanding my numbers, like, knowing the revenue, knowing the expenses, knowing the profit, and then making decisions to boost the profits. And just paying attention to all of this. And I do that on the personal side too, like in my personal budgeting, know how much I have going out to rent and groceries and all of the personal expenditures, and making sure that I'm reaching the financial goals. So when I was young and dumb in business back in the day, I wasn't paying attention to all these numbers, and the result of that was I didn't have enough confidence to charge more because I didn't understand the true cost of business. And as I've gotten more mature from a business understanding of my numbers, the emotions are kind of out of it. So if a customer asks me, "Hey, what do you charge for this service?" I, with confidence, and they can tell I have confidence, I'm like, "Hey, this is the rate. This is the price." And then the ball's in their court. Take it or leave it. But I know my numbers. I know the value I'm going to add to you as a potential customer. I know how well I'm going to serve you. And this is the price. And then they can decide if it's a good fit for their budget and things of that nature. But what I used to do back in the day that was just horrendous is I would think, well, I really need this job. So I know I should probably charge around here, but I'm just going to lower it just so they say yes. I'm gonna give them such a good price just so they say yes, just so I get the business. And then I get the business and it's barely enough to cover all my expenses. And I might as well not even have done it. So now, because I understand my numbers, I understand the market, and I'm able to price with more confidence. Yeah, there's customers that are like, hey, we can't afford that. No big deal. Because then, there will be a customer who can't afford it and who wants the service. And the when the customer says yes, it's a win-win because you're receiving the price that's helping your business continue to be profitable, and they're receiving the service, assuming you have the spirit of excellence and you're doing a good job where they're being served well. It's a win-win. But way too many times in the past, I did jobs where my price was too low, and it was just aggravating to go and work, do the job, get paid, but all the expenses to do that job were just as much as what you got paid, that you might as well have sat on the couch. Not that that would have been a good idea, but that was the point. It was just in vain. You spend all this money to go do a job, and then you only make enough money to replace the money you spent to do the job is like a wash. The goal is to be profitable. So, with that being said, I have a haircut appointment, beard trim, and all of that, and then I'm going golfing this afternoon. So I got to run, but in the future, I'm going to try to figure out how to. This It's so sunny in Florida, the sun is shining through my window, so I'm going to try to get a solution for that for future broadcasts if I broadcast at this time of the day. But in the meantime, in between time, I appreciate you watching and hope to catch you on the next episode. Peace out.